Sometimes, the life you save is the very life that gives you a reason to keep living. Jacob Miller was known as one of the strongest ranchers in Montana. But after losing everything he loved, he walked toward a cliff ready to end his life. Then he heard a weak cry from a newborn calf trapped in the mud, and that tiny life changed everything. For most of his life, Jacob Miller was known as a strong and hard-working 47-year-old rancher in Montana. His hands were rough from work, but his heart remained gentle. To everyone around him, Jacob was a man who never gave up. But no one saw how broken he truly was. 3 years earlier, his wife, Emily, passed away after a long battle with illness. She was the person who filled their quiet ranch with laughter and warmth. Then, just when Jacob thought he had nothing left to lose, tragedy struck again. His only son died in a terrible accident while helping another rancher during a storm. After losing the two people who meant everything to him, the ranch that once felt like home became a place filled with painful memories. Every corner reminded him of his lost family, the empty chair, the old jacket, and the dreams he and his son never finished. Days passed, and Jacob stopped caring about himself. He stopped riding his horse. He stopped fixing fences. He barely spoke to anyone. The strongest man had quietly fallen apart. One cold morning, Jacob made a decision. He walked away from his ranch and headed toward the hills behind his property. He believed there was nothing left waiting for him. But before he reached the top of the hill, he heard something. A faint cry. He stopped. At first, he thought he was imagining it. Then he heard it again. A weak, desperate sound coming from the valley below. Following the sound, Jacob found a newborn calf trapped in thick mud after the storm. The calf was barely alive, trembling from the cold, with no mother in sight. Jacob looked at the tiny animal. For a moment, he wanted to walk away. He was tired, hurting, and had almost no strength left. But then the calf looked into his eyes. And somehow, Jacob saw something familiar. Fear. Loneliness. The desperate need for someone to care. The same feelings he had been carrying inside his own heart. Slowly, Jacob stepped into the mud and used every bit of strength he had left to pull the calf free. It took hours. His clothes were covered in dirt, his hands were bleeding, and his body was exhausted. But when the calf finally rested safely on the grass, Jacob fell beside it and cried. For the first time in years, his tears were not only because of pain. They were because he had saved something. He carried the calf back to his barn and stayed beside her through the night. The next morning, he noticed something. The little calf was still alive. Jacob smiled. It was a small smile. But it was the first real smile he had shown in a long time. He named her Hope because after losing everything, she became his reason to believe in tomorrow. From that day forward, Hope became his reason to wake up. Every morning, she waited outside his door. If Jacob stayed inside too long, she would gently push against the door with her head. She reminded him he was needed. Slowly, Jacob started working again. He repaired fences. He cleaned the barn. He returned to the fields. Not because the pain disappeared, but because hope showed him that even the weakest creatures still fight to live. Months passed, and as hope grew stronger, Jacob slowly did too. The neighbors noticed the change. The empty man they once knew was smiling again, and the silent ranch came alive. Years went by. Hope became a large, beautiful cow with a white face and a gentle spirit. Jacob never sold her. He always said she was not livestock. She was family. One afternoon, a young boy visited the ranch with his father. The boy asked Jacob a question. "Mr. Miller, how did you become strong again after losing everything?" Jacob looked at Hope standing peacefully near the fence. He smiled. Then he answered, "I thought I was saving her that morning, but I didn't know she was saving me." The boy looked confused as Jacob touched Hope's head. Sometimes, God sends us someone who needs our help, because He knows helping them will remind us that our own life still has value. Many years later, Jacob grew old, but every morning he still walked to the barn. And beside him was Hope. The calf he once rescued became the greatest blessing of his life. Jacob learned something unforgettable. The weakest can sometimes carry the strongest light. Sometimes we think we need someone to save us from our pain. But sometimes, healing begins when we choose to save and care for another life. Love, kindness, and responsibility can give us a reason to stand again when we feel like we have already fallen. A small light can remind us our story is not over. Have you ever had someone or something enter your life at the moment you needed hope the most? What changed because of them?